This is when a long handle comes in really handy, because you see, take that balsam wood now, really bent over. I've got about 20 centimetres of handle length left, so I think I might grab a 36. Yeah, it's quite a thin axe, so it doesn't have much chipping power. Yeah, this all doubles a lot freer in the wood. It's cutting great. The flat cheeks on the Jersey and the Helko are really sticky there. Yeah, stuff at the top's really spongy. The other side will be a lot harder, it's not got that rust in it. after all that rot on the front side, I think those knots make up for it. A lot of pin knots in here and little tiny crap. So I might leave my racing axe away from this. So it's going to be between Helko and Arvika. Okay, so finally managed to cut the log. Showed me how unfit I am really. It's a lot better than the last attempts I've done. Anyway, so these are the axes that I brought along with me today. This is a double better true temper flint edge. My only proper double axe. I've got an auction cop cruiser axe as well, but that's about the best double axe I've ever used, and I ended up selling all the rest of them because of how good it is. Helko Werk Tasmanian, Council Tool Jersey Classic, Basque Racer, and an Arvika that's on loan for me from Owen Jarvis. Very kind of him to let me try it out. So anyway, I'll start off with the Council Tool Jersey. I don't really use it much, and I don't generally use it much, and that's for a good reason. It's quite thin and very flat. It bites fairly decently, but its chip removal and its stickiness make it barely usable on quite a lot of woods. The fin geometry with flat cheeks is fine, but on lighter axes for limbing and that kind of thing. So I like the smaller Council Tool boys axes, but their big axes are kind of lackluster. They're reasonably priced, very good handles on them for a stock handle, but their head geometry I don't think is very great, at least on the big axes. The small axes are fine. You know, for this length of axe, its only really utility is felling large trees and splitting, which it's not a great splitter, and its chip removal when felling is kind of lackluster. So it's a very underwhelming axe. In contrast, the old Flint edge is also very thin, but it has those convex cheeks, thicker middle basically, and this thing really cuts. It releases surprisingly easy. Much better felling axe, and obviously I prefer a straight handle for felling if possible. I don't really make a big deal out of straight versus curved, but if I was felling all day, straight's the way to go. Obviously this axe isn't made anymore, and to find one in this good a condition is very difficult. This is actually a Forest Service one, and I just followed the original grind, which is about an 18-degree chisel with a small secondary bevel, which is interesting because that's the grind I've put on a lot of my other axes and came to naturally. So it's interesting to see the Forest Service, at least the old Forest Service, using it. Basque Racer, not much to say other than it's probably one of the best axes in the world. A lot lighter than the Tuatais, maybe a pound, half a pound lighter at least. Best handle on any axe I used, and really fantastic geometry. It's just a real performer. Now the Helko, they're not bad axes, but they take a lot of work to get to work well. But even then, I feel like today this has been really just outcut by the Arvika. I wouldn't buy one of these at full retail price. They're normally like 100 quid. I managed to get one for like 55. But even at that price, they're not a great deal. I don't know, Owens kind of prefers these axes, but my experience, at least today, was that this Arvika is a much better axe. Obviously when you get them, the handles still suck. The Helko's handle's even thicker, but these are really thick and unusable. But I think the geometry is much better, at least for the woods I cut. It's a bit thinner, it's almost flat. There's a little bit of a centre line in it, but not really much to make a huge difference. But you know, if I was going to choose out of the two today which was better, this Arvika is a much better axe, I think. It's you know, at full price they're about the same. I think the Arvika was like 120 or 110, whereas the Helko is normally 100. But for me, I've got to say this Arvika is much better. Would I recommend this size of axe though, in general? No. This size of axe is too big and too heavy for most work, and it tires you out very fast. The 3.5 pound Hults Bruks are still what I'd say is a better choice. So here's the log I cut. It's a 58cm sycamore. Unfortunately, about between 1/3 and 1/4 of it is rotted, which I couldn't see at first until I really started. But most of the good wood's underneath, as far down below, which is the hardest stuff to get anyway. And there was some really nasty knots on this side, like pin knots and kind of twisty wood. So the back side was a lot harder to cut. So I'd say it's reasonable. Don't know if I'd count it as a full, like, proper go at the big log challenge. You can be the judge of that, but we've got some pretty good chips anyway out of this today. So yeah, you can see here that this is a good sized chip, and this kind of knotty sort of burr stuff at the trunk is hellish to get to chip out. So I don't know if that made up for the rot, but it certainly was interesting to cut.